Hello everyone, welcome to Describely. Today we are going to build a full stack Next.js application. So let's see what we are going to learn. So we will learn how we can create the Prisma schema and how we can migrate that schema to a database. We will migrate, we will create the tables in the MySQL database, but you can use any database, any relational database that you want, like Postgres or MySQL. After that, we will integrate the Next-Auth in the Next.js application, and we will implement the login and register pages. So in my previous video, I've explained how you can use the external API, but in the full stack application, it's a little different. So we'll go through that, and then we will. The third point is how to integrate Prisma with the Next-Auth. So we will see that in during the login implementation, and again we're gonna protect. Again, we're gonna create a couple of more route handlers, and we're gonna protect those pages and the route using the Next-Auth sessions. And then we will also learn how we can fetch the data in the server component and all. So this is going to be a very interesting video. I have told very little of what this video contains, so I will request you to watch this completely. And I will also put the timings in the description, so if you want to watch a specific topic, you can just click on that, and you can YouTube will redirect you to there, but I will encourage you to watch from the starting so that you have the full understanding of the logic. So let's get started now. Let's install the Next.js application and do the basic setup like layout and all. So for that, I'm going to copy this npx create next step at latest command, and I will open the Visual Studio Code. Okay, here I will open the terminal, and I will go to my desktop, and I will paste the command. For the project name, I am going to name it full stack Next.js app. So this will create the project in our desktop. So let's open the project. So we can click on the file and click on the open folder. Here we can go to desktop, and we can see the project that we have created here, and click on open. So we have set up the basic Next.js project. Now let's install the React Bootstrap for the styling purpose. So we can search here React Bootstrap. So we can go to this documentation here, getting started, and we can install by saying npm install React Bootstrap space bootstrap. So we can copy the command and open the terminal here, paste the command. Apart from that, we need to import the styling. So we can just use this CSS bootstrap min.css, and we can go to our open the source directory. Inside the source directory, we'll see here layout.js, and you can see here global.css is imported already. So we can just paste this line also here, and let's clear out any code that we had already using the default Next.js installations. Okay, so if I run the project, so this is the basic Next.js application, and these contents comes using from the Next.js itself. So let's remove that. So we can just select everything, and let's remove this. So I will say here a paragraph hello world. Let's remove these two imports also. This is not required. Okay, so let's go to this global.css and remove any content that we have there. So this is also not required. So we can just select everything and remove this. We also have this page.module.css. This is again not required. So we can delete this. If we save these files and go to our application again, we can see hello world here. Apart from React Bootstrap, we need to install a couple of more things for forms and all. So let me stop the development server, and I'm just going to say npm I for install, and I will install up for form validation. Apart from this, I will also install React form to manage the forms. And apart from this, we need another package that will resolve the up schema to React hook form. So for that, I will use this hook form resolver. So we can say npm I space and then hook form resolver. So let's create the layout now. So for the layout, I will create a folder here inside the src, and that will be components. And inside the components, I will create another folder, layouts. And inside the layout folder, I will create a file that will be called base layout. Another file that I will say navbar.js. Okay. So let's go to the Bootstrap website and search for the Navbar. So we can say here React Bootstrap, and if you open the components, you will see Navbar section here. And let's scroll down and see which one we need. So I need a login and register button. So for that, I will use this layout. Here I will replace this with login and register button. So I will just copy this and let's go to our code. Let's create the page. So we can say export default function. Let's say my navbar. We need to import this. So this we can import from here. You can see we can import like this. So we can just paste it here. So we have the navbar and container component. So let's just format this. Okay. So we want to replace this, right? So for this, let's do one thing. We need the sign in and the register link. So let's import the link component from next. Okay. And inside this, let's create a button. So we need href, and href I'm just going to say auth/login. Okay. And then let's duplicate this for register. So auth/register. Let me close this terminal so that it's little bigger. And let me close these files also. So for the link, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a button here. Okay. And for the button, we can go to this React Bootstrap and we can search for the button. And the button, we can see it here. So we can import the button by saying this import button. Okay. So let me put this here. And let me copy the first one, primary. So I will put this here and again here for the register. So this is going to be my login button and this is going to be my register button. Okay. Here I want to change the variant from primary to outline. So for outline, if you see here, scroll down a little bit, you will find for outline we can say outline primary. So let me replace this with outline primary. So this is my register, this is my login. Now I want to create the base layout here. So we can say export default function base layout. Here I'm just going to get the children and I will return. I'm just going to wrap the entire layout using the container. So container is a layout component. If you're not sure, you can just go here and you can see layout and then you can see breakpoints. Not sure. Where can we see? Okay, so you can see the container here. This container is basically provides you a container. So container fluid is little bigger and container is a little smaller. So I'm just going to use the container. Here what I will do, I will import my navbar. Okay, and I will return the children. So this should be fine now. We need to use this base layout somewhere. So for that we have this layout.js. So we can click on this and we can wrap our page with this. So here we can say base layout and we can just put the children here. So now our layout is basic layout is ready actually. If we open the terminal and start the development server. So we can say npm run dev again, and if we open the localhost again 3000, so unsupported server component type undefined. So I think this is coming from the Navbar because we have used the button component. So if I go to this Navbar, I need to change this to client component. So we can say use client, and if I save this, you can say this compiles successfully. Okay, perfect. So we can see our login and register button. So we can see here that our login and register button is touching together. So I want to put some spacing there. So for this, we can go to this bootstrap and you can see stack here. So using the stack, we can separate the items either horizontally or vertically. So I want to separate them horizontally. So for that, you can see it here. So I can use this stack direction horizontal and I can put a gap of 3 or 2, whatever I want. So let me copy this and let's go to this neighbor, and I will replace this text with his stack here. So let me change this to stack. Okay, so this should separate that. Okay, I can see it error here. That means what it says, neighbor stack is not defined. So we have not imported this, so we can just import this using this line. Okay, so we can just copy and paste here in our code. So this compiles now and refresh the page. Okay, so we can see here there is a space in between the logins and register button now. I want to change this neighbor name, so that we can change here in the neighbor component. So I will say this full stack Next.js. Okay, so we can see here full stack Next.js. The page is already reloaded, so that's fine. Now I would like to create the login and register pages. So for that, let me stop the development server and let me close this. Okay, so let me close these files also. To create the login and register, if we go to our navbar here, you will see the URL is /auth/login. So we need to create a folder in this fashion. So for that, I will create this folder inside this app directory. So I will say /auth/login, and here inside the auth, I need to create another folder called register. Okay, so inside the login, let's first create the login one. So inside the login, let's create page.js. We can just copy this and we can create a file here inside the register.js. We can paste the same here and we can change the name as register page. If we start the development server, and go to our application again, refresh the page. If we click on the login, we can see I am from the login page, and if we click on the register, it says not found. So why it's not found? Okay, so this should be page.js instead of register.js. My bad. So I need to restart the server. I'm from the register page. Perfect. So it's working. So let's style the pages now. So for styling, here, okay, what happened? Here, if we go to the form and click on the overview, right? So you will see that we have this email field and password field and the submit button. So this is what we required for the login. Okay. So for that, let's import the button and form now. To use this form, either form or button, we need this. We need to make this a client component. We have seen this in Navbar, right? So let me make this client component so that it works. I think this is because of the button, because button might be having some state or something. It's not a bootstrap tutorial, so I'm not going to go inside this. I will just leave it like this. Okay, and we can just copy the form code, and let's replace this here. Okay, so let's go to the login page. Okay, we can see the email and password field. To me, this is not looking pretty, so I will modify it a little further. So for that, I'm just going to go inside this grid, and you can see here we have a row and column. So I'm just going to apply this row and column inside the form so that I can make it a little pretty. So let's go to our code, and let me just cut this form, and I will create a row component, and inside this I will create a column component, and I will paste the form here. Let's form it little bit. Okay, in the row component I will add a class, and the class is going to be justify content center. Okay, in the call component I will again add a class, and this will be call 6. So I will take 6 column width, and the total column is going to be, let's say, row calls 12. So out of 12 I will take the 6 column width. So the whole screen will be divided into 12 columns, and I will take the 6 columns for this form. So let's see our page now. Let me refresh this. Okay, so it's little good, looking good. I think good than previous one. So let me just put some padding here on the top. So I will put here pt, let's say 5. Okay, so there is some spacing now. So this is fine. I think we can work with this. For the register, currently we don't have anything. So let me copy the entire code from the login page, and let me paste this to a register page. So we have the register page. Button name I will say register, and don't need this checkbox. Password we need, email we need another field, that is name of the user. We can just copy and paste the email field. I don't need this text, at least for now. I will change this to name, full name. Type will be text, and I will say here John Doe as a placeholder. We don't have row and column here, so let's import this from the login page. And let's make this also a client component. This should be fine now. Okay, so we have our register page, and we have our login page. Next I want to do the form validation. Okay, so for that I have prepared the code. Okay, so I will just paste it here. So let me stop the development server, and for the register page, let me copy the schema. Okay, so I'm just going to use basically the React hook form and the UP for that. So this is the schema that I'm going to use, and let me import the hook resolver and all. So here I will just paste the code. So this is basically coming from the React hook form, and this is the resolver that we installed, and this is using the schema that we have created for the register. So we have name, email, and password, 3 fields here. That same thing we have here. Okay, so let's configure this now. So we need to import the UP and the React hook form and this resolver. So for that, let me just copy and paste also this code. So this is the import is done now. We can register our fields here. So this is form control, and we can say here dot register, and then we can provide the name. So the name is going to be the name for this, and for email this will be email, and for the password this is going to be password. Perfect. Apart from this, here in the form I will say on submit, and we will use the handle submit method that is coming again from the react to form, and we need to create a function here. So we can say const handle user register, and this will be a function, async function to be precise, and here we will get the data, and let's print the data. That's all. So we can pass this inside this handle form. Now we need to display the errors also. So for that I will just copy and paste the code. So after this form control I will paste a line here. So this is nothing but the form.text, and this is going to display the text in red color. So if this errors, and this errors is coming from this form state, so once we click on the submit, this error object contains all the error, validation error. So if this contains this name, then we are going to display the message, otherwise we are not going to display anything. So let me just duplicate this everywhere. I will remove this text, and instead of name this will be email. Let me copy and paste this after the password as well. So this will be password. So we have our validation in place. We have successfully configured the validation in the register form. So let's do this in the login as well. So for the login, let me copy this schema, and let me go to the login page, and I will paste the schema again here. I will remove the name field, and let me import all the import that is required. So these three, and put it here. Apart from this, we need a function for login. So we can say const handle user login. Here we can say on submit handle form is not there, we have not copied, so let's copy that. So now we can say handle submit, and then we can pass this our login function that we have created. So this is okay. Let's copy the error message again and put the error message there. So this text I will replace this with error text. So we have email now, and this one we can replace this with password. We need to register the fields. So for that we can say dot register, and this is email, and here we can say dot register, and this is going to be password. Okay, if you're not sure what this does, so you can read the this library react to form. You can just search it on the Google and go through this library. Okay, so this is fine. Now I will change the button to login and type submit is fine. So we have a validation in place in our forms, so we can just start the server, and we can see that if I refresh the page, if I click on the login, you can see the messages here, error messages. If I go to the register, click on the register, you can see the error message here. So before we write our register logic, let's install the Next-Auth and set up the Prisma. So to install the Next-Auth, we can go to our Next-Auth website there, and just we can go to get started, and we can install this by saying npm install Next-Auth. So let me stop the development server and paste the command here. So this has now installed the Next-Auth. We want to use the Prisma adapter, so we can click on this adapter, and we can select the Prisma here. Okay, so here it's saying that we need to install these packages to use the Prisma. So we can just say uh, copy this command and we can paste in our terminal and install this. We also need this Prisma, so we can just paste this command as well. So this is now install the Prisma in our code base, right? I don't want to configure this now. I just want to create the schema for now. So here they have given a sample schema.json. Sorry, schema.prisma. So what I will do, I will just copy this code, and they said that we need to create a folder schema and then we need to put the schema.prisma there. Okay, so let's do that. So let's go here, and here I will create a folder called Prisma, and then I will create a file schema. Okay, and I will paste the code here. So this is okay, schema.prisma. Sorry, I have just created the file with the wrong name and extension. So let me just change this. Okay, so you can see it here, but this is not highlighted, so probably I don't have Prisma extension installed. So let me go here and I can search Prisma. So this is installed now, and if we go to our code, you can see this is highlighted now. This is not required. Actually, we are going to use the Prisma higher than 3, so we can remove this. Here I am just going to use the provider as a MySQL, and this is also not required. We need the database URL, and for that we need to first create a .env file, right, so that we can configure the database URL. So we can create .env, and here I will put the database, and this is going to be database URL. Apart from this, in the user table, since we are going to use the password as well, right, so here in this one I'm going to add another field called password. So I will just duplicate this image one and I will change this to password. I will make this optional with this question mark, because I will be using at the end of this section social authentication as well. So for that we will not have the password, so it's better to make it nullable. I will not modify anything in this one, just only one modification toward the password fields. Okay, so this is fine. Now we have configured the schema. To use the Prisma, we need MySQL database, right? So for that, you can go to GitHub Describely page, and inside the repositories you will find one fast API starter kit. Okay, so this is a Docker setup. So you can just download and install Docker in your local, and after that clone this repository and follow the instruction here. Okay, and this will actually configure the MySQL in your local, and also it will add the adminer. So using this port 8080, right, you can open the adminer like this, and then you can use the password server as a MySQL. So it's all written there in the README. So you can see here host is MySQL and the password is root, and whatever password is written there, you can just use the same one and log in here. So you can see here I'm logged in. I'm just going to create a separate database called Prisma. Okay, so this will be my database name that I'm going to use in this application. So I can just go here and open the .env file. So in the database URL, I am going to configure this. So I will just put the string here. So I have created a separate user and password uh, for this application. So the username is actually Describely and password is secret only. And this is running at localhost 3306, and the database name is Prisma. So this database URL will be used by the Prisma. So currently, if we see our database, this Prisma, we don't have anything, any tables, and we have created the schema here, right? So we need to migrate this schema to our database, right? So for that, we can go to our terminal and we can just type npx Prisma, okay, migrate, and then we can say dev. And actually this is going to connect to our database, so you can see the connection is successful, and now it's asking the name of the migration that we want to say. So I will just say init 001, okay, and I will just put the name. So you can see here in it has created a migration folder, and inside that it has created another folder, and that contains the migration dot file. Okay, so here you can see all the MySQL code, okay, and this is actually the log file that is created by the Prisma. It will be used by the Prisma itself, so we don't need to worry, we can just leave it. And if we go to our database and refresh the uh, page, we can see that it has created the accounts, session, user, and verification. So all the tables is created, and there is another one, Prisma migration. So this is basically for Prisma to manage the migrations, what has been migrated and what has not been migrated. Okay, so this is for that. And if we go to our user page, you can see here all the fields that we need and the password as a nullable. Okay, one more thing to notice here, by default the string data type has 191 character. If you want, you can just use the text, and or you can just read the Prima documentation if you want to increase this, but for me I am just going to leave this. Now let's create a way to access our database, right? So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a folder here, and this folder I will call it, this is going to be inside the source folder, so I will call it db. Okay, and inside the db I will create a file that again will be db.js, and in this js file I'm just going to import the Prisma client. And I don't want to what I want to do here, I want to create a singleton, so that every time I need to access the Prisma, right, I don't want to create a new instance of the Prisma client. I want to use the same one. So for that I will just say const, and I will say Prisma, and I will say instance, and this is going to be the new Prisma instance. Okay, and what I will do, I will just freeze this object. So object dot freeze, and then I can say Prisma. So every time someone tries to access this Prisma, right, calls this Prisma, they will get this one, this object only. So and here I will just export, or we can say Prisma dot instance. We can just export the instance itself. So from this object, so whenever someone calls, right, so this will access this object, and this object will contain the instance. So every time we will access the instance of this Prisma client that has been freezed. Okay, so this will give us singleton. Now let's create the user register API. So for that I will go inside the source and inside the a folder, and I will create a folder here called API, and inside this API folder I will create another folder called users, and inside this users folder I will create a file called route.js. Okay, and in this route.js I'm just going to write the logic to create the users. So for that we can import the db that we have created here. So we can import this Prisma. So we can say import Prisma, not that Prisma, from, and this is going to be at db/db. And how we can create the route method in next 13? So we can say export async function, and we can define the method type post here, and this post will receive the request. Okay, and in this request we can get the request data by saying const data, and we can say request.json. So this is the same way how we get the data using the fetch method, right? If we want to get the response data, we can say just response.json. So for this request we can say request.json. And to create the user, what we can do, we can say const Prisma, or not Prisma, user, and we can say await Prisma dot user dot create, and here we can pass the data object. So we can pass the name, and this will get from the data dot name. Email, we will get data dot email, and password, we will get data dot password. This password we need to hash using some bcrypt and all, so we'll do that in a minute. And let's return the response. So here we can check if user is created. That means user is not created. Let's check the reverse thing. And if user is not created, then we can return a response like next response, and not next response, and we can say JSON, and inside this we can pass a body. So body we can say detail, and unable to create a user account. So this is the message, and we can say error equals to true. So this response will tell that this response is an error, and also using another object we can just return the status code. So we can say status 400, and if the user was successfully created, then we can return a different response. We can just return the user object, this user object will contain the password and all. So if you don't want to return the password, so you can say here, let's say const response user, and you can create an object. So whatever you want to return, you can return like user dot name, and id is going to be user dot id, and let's say email user dot email. There are other ways that you can transform this user object into a, let's say, you can define the fields, what fields you want to return, not in this way, but there are better ways to do this. So for I'm not going to explain that. So for now this will work for this tutorial. So you can return these three fields only. It's not a good practice to return everything that a object db object has, because there may be some sensitive information. So you may be returning something that may lead to a hack or something, or maybe some other issues in your site. So it's better that you return only those data that is required on the UI, not everything. Okay, so that's fine. So here we can say 201. So user will be user account will be created here. But what if the user already exists in our database, right? Not user, the email already exists in our database. So we can check that also. So we can say const user count. So we can check the user count, and we can say await prisma dot user dot count, and here we can pass the condition. So we can pass the where, and inside the where we can pass the email is going to be data dot email. So if this email is found, then this count will be more than 0, right? So we can say here, if user count is greater than 0, in that case we want to return an error response. So we can return this email is already registered. Email is already registered. So this is fine. Now let's create a function to hash the password. So for that we need to install one npm package, that is bcrypt. So we can say npm install bcrypt bcrypt. Okay, so this bcrypt is installed now. So let's create a helper folder, so where we can put all the helper files. So let's create a utils, actually not helper. Let's name it utils actually, and here I will say password. So this is going to be my password helper file. So here I will function export function, and we can say hash password. Okay, why this is importing this? Here we can say pass. Okay, this auto import is very bad. Password, and here we can just return, and we want to hash this password whatever is passed, right? So for that, let's import the bcrypt. So we can say import pcrypt bcrypt from bcrypt, and we can say bcrypt dot hash, and we can say password. So this will return a hashed version of this password, and next we want to verify this. So we can say export function, and we can say compare, or we can say verify. Here we will get our raw password, and here we will get our hash password. Not hash, let's see it hashed, and we can return bcrypt.compare. And first thing, if you see here, we are going to pass the data, and the second one is encrypted. So raw password PAWSWORD, and here we will pass the hashed password. So this will return a boolean value, either true or false, if the password matches with the hash. Okay, so this we can use in our route file here. So we can wrap this with our hash password. So we can say data dot password. This is not yet imported, so we can import this. Say import hash password from util/password. So now user password is also hashed. Now let's write the logic to register the user account. Okay, so we can go to our auth/register page, and here we have console.log, right? So what we can do, we can use the fetch method. So we can say const and raw response await fetch, and our URL is going to be API/users. So API/users, and then we can pass the metadata, and in the metadata the method is going to be post, and the body we want to return the JSON. We want to pass the JSON, so we can say JSON dot stringify and our request data. That means form data. We can check here if raw response is okay. That means if it was successful, then we'll actually show some, let's say, toast message, and if there was an error, then we can get the response data JSON. We can say await raw response dot JSON, and we can set the error. We can say set error, and here we can pass the field name email, right? And in the email field we can pass the object here error. So here we can pass the message, and this message is going to be JSON dot detail. Let me put a actually question mark here. So if this is not there, JSON is null, uh, using whatever regions, and then this doesn't throw an error. So here I can say oops, unable to create account. Okay, and another thing we can pass here, we can pass the error, and this error is true. I think this is fine. Okay, here error is not true, here type is error actually. So this is fine now. Let's add the toast here. To display the toast message, I am going to install one repository here, and that is actually React Toastify. So you can use another one whatever you want. So this will display message something like this. So let me copy this and go to the terminal and install this. So this is installed now. If we go to the documentation, we need to use this toast container and this is styling. And after that, we can use this toast method to display the toast message like this. Okay. So let me just import this CSS. So for that, I want this CSS to be available on every page so that I can use the toast everywhere. So let's go to this layout. Here we have added the bootstrap, right? So after that, I will add this toast one. So this is okay. And for the container, right? So I will create a folder, not folder, file here inside this component, and this is going to be providers.js. So I can say const providers, and this is going to be returning only this toast container for now. So I will get the children here. I can return the children, and here I will put this toast container. And we can export this component. Perfect. Now we can use this provider in our layout so that every page has this. This is not imported, so we can import this. Import providers from. So our toast is configured now. Perfect. We can use the toast now. So just to explain you, this provider I have created. So later we are going to use the next auth. So we need to use the session provider, and also I will just import the providers here so that it's applied across the routes and pages. So now let's use the toast. So we can use the toast by calling this. Okay, so we can say import this. Let me remove the toast container, and here I can say toast dot success. I want to display the success message. Your account has been registered. So we have added lots of code now. So let's test the code. To start the development server, we can say npm run dev. Okay, we can go to the browser and let's refresh the page. Perfect. So we can put our detail k3 at describely.com and password. I'm just going to say secret 123. And if I click on register, nothing happens. Okay, here it says data and salt argument are required, and this is coming from password. So if I go to the password here, if I go to this hash, okay, so this is a hash and we need a number, and this is a promise. Okay, so we did not put the await also, so we can pass the salt or round number, and for that I will say 10, And for the promise, is there any? Okay, hash sync method is there. It also accept a number and a string like that. So I will use the hash sync, and I will also use the compare sync. If you want to use the async method, you need to declare the async here. But for this tutorial, I will use the sync one. So this is compiled now. Let's check this again. So if I go here, let me put a separation and click on this register again. Again, nothing happens. We see again some other data and salt argument are required. We are passing the salt here. That means we might not be getting the data. So let me do one thing here. I can put a console.log and I can put a password, and this is going to be password. Okay. So if I click register again, password is coming as undefined. That means password is not passed. So if we go to our route, actually, that means here we are not getting the password inside the data. So let me just log this data. Console.log request data. So this is how you can also debug uh, from one step to another. You can just connect this and you will find a way to debug actually. So if I click on register again, okay, we made a mistake actually. This is a very silly mistake. So this request is async, so we need to put await here. If I put await here, and let me put separation here again, and if I click on register now, your account has been registered, but here we got some error, unable to create the account. Not sure what happened. You can see the request data here, and you can see the password as well. So this is fine now. Let's see why we are getting this message. And if we go to our database that we have on localhost 8080, so if I go to this Prisma user account, you can see here user password is encrypted and the user detail are added, but we got this um, error message. So I'm not sure why this is coming. So let's see. Raw response is not okay. Okay, we did not put the else condition here, so that's why we got that error. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me delete my detail from the DB and let me create my account again. Okay, and let me also remove the console log and all. So we can remove this, and from the route also. This is very silly mistake, but it happens whenever you are working. I'm not removing this from the video because so that you know how to debug this. So Kesari, and my full name is Kesari Nandan, so I will put the full name here. Kesari@describely.com, and I will put my last name 123. Register. So you can see the message here. Your account has been registered. Perfect. And if we go to our database, we can see the detail here. Now we have completed the user registration part. Let's start working on the login. So for that we need the next auth, right? So we can go here and we can install the Next-Auth using this npm command, npm install Next-Auth. So this is installed now, and we need to configure this. So we want to use the Prisma, right? So for configuring this, we can go to this guide for the app router, and you can see here we can configure like this, and this is going to be inside the API, then auth, then next auth, something like this hierarchy. So we can go inside the API folder and we can create this. This is going to be a file actually. So here instead of ts I will say js. So here inside the API I have auth folder, and inside that I have dot next auth, and inside that I have the route.js as described here. So we can import the next auth. We can also import these two things. Okay, we want to use the credential provider here, so we can say providers, and this providers is going to be an array. Okay, and inside this array we can pass our credential provider. So we can, if we go to this providers option and credentials, so you can see that this is the credential provider actually. So let me just copy and put the whole thing here. Right, so name is credential. Let me remove the this comments, this again. So here we need the authorize method, and we need to authorize the user. Let me remove all these things, and if user is logged in, then we can return the user detail from here. So I want to discuss actually two things here. One is like since we are working on the full stack Next.js, right? So let me put it full stack Next.js. So in this one, we don't have a separate backend. So we can say don't have separate backend. But in another scenario, we can have a separate backend. So if you want to learn how to authenticate the user using the separate backend, right? On the top right corner, there will be a link coming. So you can click on the link and you can see my other video there. So I have explained the uh, access token, refresh token, and other things there. But for this full stack Next.js app, again there is two scenario. You can authenticate a user. One is what you can do. You can put the login logic here itself. Okay, because we can access the database on the server side, so we can use the Prisma client and we can just check the user validation, I mean user access and all here, and we can just log in the user. So log in the user inside the credential provider. And the second scenario is, for let's say for whatever reason, if you need to create a login API and refresh token API separately, right? You can create it here inside the API folder, and there you can generate the JWT token and the refresh token, and then you can use that token. So custom login and refresh token API. So once you create these two API in the next inside this API folder, all your logic will be similar to this separate backend that we have implemented. So I will put the video link again in the description, and also it will be coming on the top right corner. If you want, you can click this. So first I'm just going to build this one, and I'm just going to explain how you can validate the user authentication and all using this logic, and later on I will build this custom login and refresh token API itself in this Next.js application, and then I will show you how you can use that. Okay, so let's build first one. So for this, we can say this one is active at this point. Since we are using the Prisma adapter, so we need to tell the Next-Auth that we are going to use the Prisma adapter, and for that we can go to this guide, and here in the adapter section, not providers, sorry, adapter section, and we can select the Prisma, and here you will see, to use the Prisma adapter we need to put the adapter like this. Okay, so we can paste this here. Prisma adapter is not yet imported, so we can import the Prisma adapter from auth/prisma like this, and we need the Prisma client. So this parameter, if you see, this is coming from here, and this is Prisma client. So Prisma client we have created, so we can import it from there. So we can say Prisma, and from @/db/db. So we'll have the Prisma adapter, and adapter is configured. One more configuration we require, and that is, if we go to the previous page and we go to the configuration initialization. So not initialization, I think it's in the callback. sorry, it was in options. So in the options, if we go to this sessions, right, here it says for default is JWT, right? The session is basically using the JWT encryption. But if we use the adapter, it's going to use the database. But I don't want to use the database. If you want, you can just leave it as default. I want to use the JWT itself. So for that, uh, I need to change this strategy, right? So for that, I can just copy this one and paste that, or I have prepared the code, so I will let me just copy and paste that because I don't want to put that long code. And let me just copy this. So this is copied after this provider. I can put a comma here and I can paste this strategy here. So strategy JWT. Here you can see the strategy database, but I want JWT. And max age I have added like 24 into 60 into 60. That means 1 day. If you want to modify it, you can modify it as per your requirement. Next, I also want to modify the JWT little bit. Okay, so here you can, if I scroll down, here you can see that we can set the max age and all. And if we go to this detail method, uh, you will see here we can set the secret and all, right? Mm, So for that, I have again prepared the code, and let me just paste the code. So for JWT, actually, copied, and let me paste it here. So here I am using the Next-Auth secret. Basically, whatever secret we provide in Next-Auth, in the Next-Auth, and I'm just going to use the same age here, and encryption I'm just going to say true. So our JWT is encrypted by default. We can also add the secret here. Again, this is going to be the Next-Auth secret itself, so that our session and all is encrypted using this. Perfect. So we have configured the session and JWT, how they are going to work. So next we can write the login logic. Okay. So for that, we are going to get the user details here, email and password. So we can check if the user exists in our database or not. So we can say const user, and we can use the await Prisma client we have already imported dot user dot find unique. Okay, and this here we can pass the condition where email is going to be credentials dot email, right? And we can say if not user, if we don't find the user, then we can just return null, return null. If user exists, and let's say if you want to put some logic to check if the user email is validated and user account is active, you can put it here. So we can say validation logic for login. But for me, it's a pretty simple. I will leave this part. Okay, now I need to validate the password. So we have found the user, but we need to validate the password. So I can say if and compare. So let's see what is the method name. I think it's verify. Okay, so it's verify, and let me import this first. So import verify from. I might be not. I might not be a good for naming the things, so you can use your own naming convention. But I will use the verify here. So the first thing we need, if I go to this password and then the hashed password. So password we can get from credentials dot password, and then hash password that we can get user from user dot password. And we can say if a user is not valid, then return a null. Otherwise, we can return the user detail. So we can say name, and name is going to be user dot name. Email is going to be user dot email. id is going to be email user.id. This return null we can remove. Actually, I don't want to return the null here. I want to return some error message. So for that, I can say throw new error, and inside this, I can put the error message. So I will say user account does not exist, and here I can return invalid username or password. Invalid email or password. Next, I want to configure couple of callbacks so that I can handle the uh, login data. Okay, so for that, if we go to the Next-Auth documentation here on this callback section, so you will see there are a couple of callbacks: sign in, redirect, session, and JWT. So let me just copy this code and put it in our code. So here I will remove whatever is not required. So I will not need the sign in and the redirect and the session. So I will just remove these three. I will just need the JWT. So here we will be getting the user detail JWT. So if you want to put anything inside the JWT token, right? Okay, let me just revert back. So let me just remove these two only. So your session will have the information for user. So user ID and all will be there in the session. So if the user is authenticated, right, you will get this user information. And if you want to put this in the JWT also, you can put it here. It like you can say something like token if user, then you can say token dot user and then user. So your JWT is created once you log in, and only that time you will get this user information. And this session will be available to you once you authenticate. So you can fetch the user information from the session. So similar to this, let's see if you have any extra information that you want to put inside the token. Let's say user role and all. So once the user is logged in right here, you can fetch those role and return that from here with the user information, and then you will get that inside this user object, and then you can just put that inside your JWT token payload. And if you want those things to be available in your session, then you will get the token here, whatever token JWT generates, and then you can put that inside the session. User object is already added inside the session, so you don't need to put that separately. So with this, our login logic is ready. So we can go to our login page and we can configure this. So let's go to our login page. Let me just close this here in the login. And here we are saying console.log, right? So we can just remove this. And we can say sign in. Okay, so this sign in autocorrect is very bad. So let me import the sign in. So I can say import sign in from Next-Auth/React. Here we can call the sign in, and this sign in will take the provider name. So in our case, this is credentials, and this will take an object, and we can say redirect false. We don't want to redirect automatically, and we can pass the email. Email we will get from data.email, and then we can pass the password, and password we will get data.password. And once this is done, so we can say then we can say response response, and we can write a closure. Here we can say if response is okay, that means if the login was successful. In else case, we can set an error again, and we can say email, and this will take message. In the message we can here let's get the JSON. So this will be response dot JSON, and we can say JSON if JSON has this detail field, otherwise uh, unable to log in. Okay, and we can pass the type is error. If the login is successful, then I want to display the toast again, and I will say success. I also want to redirect. So for that I need to use the React router, or I can directly import the redirect. Redirect from next navigation. Okay, so I can use this redirect here, and I want to redirect to the home page. This should be fine now. If we go to our login page, we should be able to log in. So we can say npm run dev. If I click on login, nothing happens. Some error is coming here, providers. Okay, so this says credential provider is not defined. So we have not imported the credential provider, I believe. That's why we can see that error. So if I go to this route, and this we have not imported. So let me remove this use also, and this credential provider. We can go to our Next-Auth documentation, and here if I go to the providers and credential provider, we can import it like this. So if I put the code here, refresh this, I believe build is not yet running. Okay, I can see couple of things here. So next URL and no secret currently. So we have not added the secret for the JWT, and we have not added the next URL. So let me quickly add this. Here in the env, I will add the next URL, and this is going to be same thing. Next is next secret. So next secret we can get it from here. If I go to this uh, options, and you will see a command here. Using this we can generate the secret. So let me just stop the development server and paste this. So this is the secret. You can generate it too, and let me put it here and start the development server again. So we should not see this warning now. Perfect. If I go to this page again, and let me just refresh this. Login. Some error occurred. No secret. Okay, we have added the no secret, but if we go to this this is next auth secret actually, so that's why we don't see that. And here what is the error that we have got? Okay, let me provide it, put this again. Login, we got some error, and here we cannot get this response.json. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's debug this. Okay, so that's fine. In our login page, let me put console.log, and I want to log the response, whatever response we get when we click on the login, right? or this is going to be await. Actually, I think this was the error, but this is fine. No, actually we won't get this response.json. We can directly use this response, and this won't be detailed, this will be error. And if I go here and describely.com, and if I put the password, let me open the terminal as well. Not terminal, console and the network. If I click on the login, some error happens, and we get here user account does not exist. So that means this email does not exist. And let's go to our database. So I might have typed something wrong. Yeah, this was KESAHRI. So I had made a mistake initially. So that means we were getting the errors here. Let me first check if the error message is displayed. So this is displayed. And if I use this correct email address, click on login. So the login successful, but next redirect is throwing some error. This is not working. So we can use the next router here. So we can say const router use router, and this use router will be next/navigation, and here we can say router.push. If I refresh the page, if I put the detail again, you can see I am logged in and I have been redirected to the home page. So our login is working now, but we still see the login and registered pages. And if I go to the login page, I can navigate to the login page. So next I want to put some logic so that once the user is logged in, right, they cannot go to the login and registered pages, and they don't see this login button. Instead they see the logout button. So to change this navigation, let's go to our layout. Let me actually minimize this. And here inside this components, we can go to our layouts and navbar. Here we need to change this is stack actually. So we can get the session here by saying const and data colon session, and then the status. We can use the session here. Okay, and we can say if status equals to loading, then I don't want to say anything, display anything. So I will just return null. And here I will change this. I will say if status equals to authenticated, then I will display something else I will display something else. So if not authenticated, then I will display this stack. And in case if the user is authenticated, I will display some text only. So I can say navbar dot text, and this text will be signed signed in as, and here I can say session dot user dot name. So if user is authenticated, then we'll get this. This will be question mark username from the session, and then we can actually display the logout button. So let me put a span here, and I can say logout. I added the span here because I want to put a on click uh, here. So on click I can say sign out. and this will be redirect to slash. This should be fine now. If I go and refresh this page, it must be a session provider. So okay, we have not used the session provider. So what we can do inside this providers, right? Let me go and put the session provider here. So like this, and we can just wrap this so that our session next session is available everywhere. This will be a client component because this session providers requires a client component. So this is done now. So you can see already here my name is changed here, signed in as Kesri Nandan, and logout button. So if I click on the logout, I will be logged out. So I am logged in again, but currently I can go to the login page and register page. So I want to disable this behavior as well. To disable this behavior, we can go to our forms, register form and the login form, and let me copy this use session from here, and actually uh, let me copy the use session from here, and let me go to our login page, and here in the beginning I can just paste this. Use session is not imported, so I can import this. So this is use session is imported now. Here we can check, we can say if status equals to loading, then return null. Actually I want to put this after all the constants, and if status equals to authenticated, then I want to redirect to the home page. So for that I will need the router. So we have the router here, and we can say router dot push to home page. This logic I will need in the register page as well. So let me copy and paste this here. We need a use router and use session as well. So let me copy and paste this here as well. Use session. Actually, this use session is coming from the Next-Auth React. So I have not added this. I have added this wrong here. So this use session is coming from Next-Auth session. So let me just fix it quickly. Use session and use router. If I go to our login page again, I can remove this line. So this should be working now. If I go to this page again, and if I manually go to localhost slash auth slash register, you will see I have been redirected to the home page. So let me recap what we have done till now. So if I log out, we have created the user register page. Using this, user can register, or you can say create their account. We have created a user register API using the NextJS route handler. You can see it here. Okay, and also we have created the login page. Here user can enter their account detail and log in into the system, and this login logic is written inside our Next-Auth route here. Next I want to create two more APIs using the route handler, and the first one is going to be slash API slash post. So using this API, this will be a get API. I'm going to return the list of posts that I have, and you and another API slash post and slash post ID. So using this, I'm just going to display the post detail. Okay, and for displaying this on the page, because this API are going to return the JSON response, right? So to display this data, I'm just going to display the list of posts here on the home page, and for display the specific post, I mean the post detail, I'm just going to use slash post slash ID of the post. So this will be a page that I'm going to create to display the post detail. Once we complete this these two API and this page and the styling of this page, we are going to add the route protection. So there will be two level of protection. One, we don't want an unauthenticated user to open the post detail, so we can protect our pages here, right? So if we protect our pages, then an unauthenticated user cannot access the page. But what about the API? So we also need to protect our API, that only allowed user can call the API and can make the request to get the data. So the protection will be at two level. So we are going to discuss this in the next couple of minutes. So let's create the this post API first. So for this, what I'm going to use, I'm just going to use the JSON placeholder here. You can go to this website and you will find a API here to get the list of posts. So this returns the 100 posts. So I'm just going to call this API from the route handler. So to create the APIs, like we did for users, right? We need to create a folder here called posts, and inside this, I will create a file called route.js. We can directly call the API from our pages, but I want to show you how you can manage this in the route handler. So first I'm just going to import the next response. Okay, and this is going to be a get method, so we can say export async function get, and here we will get the request object, and I'm just going to call that API. So we can say raw response, and it's going to be await fetch, and I will paste the this post API here from the JSON placeholder. So this is a actually demo lecture, so that's why I'm calling this JSON placeholder. In actual scenario, you will not call any API here. What you will do, you will connect your application with the database using the Prisma, and you will fetch the list of posts that you have in your database or somewhere wherever you have stored. Okay, but for this tutorial, this is fine. So I will just get the post list by saying await and raw response.json, and then I can just return this by saying the next response.json and post. So this will return the 200. And if I go to our API page, right, here we have slash API slash post. If I refresh this, you can see we are getting this in the form of JSON. So we have successfully completed the post API. Now I want to build this slash post slash one, where this one is the ID of the post. So you can pass any route segment here. So we are going to cache this route segment, and we are going to uh, use this one to fetch the API from the placeholder. So here you can see there is a API. If we pass the post ID, then we get the post detail here. Okay, so let's build this one also. So for that, if we have a dynamic route segment, right, we need to we can cache the dynamic route segment by saying square brackets, and here we can put the name of the dynamic segment in the URL that we have. So I'm just going to say the post ID, and here inside this folder we can create the route.js. Let me copy the code from here, and we have this. So now we need to get that route segment. Okay, so for that we can get that using the params. So we will get the params object here in the request, and we can get the post ID from this params. So we can say const, and here we can say post request id, and this we can say params dot post id. So actually this name should be exactly same what you have put inside the square brackets. Otherwise, if you put anything else, you won't get the parameter. Let me show you using the console.log. So if I put console.log here, right, and if I put the params, let me put a question mark here also. Let me make this terminal little bigger so that it's visible. And if I refresh this page, you can see the post ID is coming here. So this name should be exactly same what you put here. This one thing to remember. And here I can say null. So if this doesn't exist, I will say null. And in case if I don't have the post ID, let me rename this to post ID only. So if I don't have the post ID, then I can return a error response. This will be, we can say error, and here we can say not found, and we can return a status of 404. So if you pass something or you don't pass anything here, this will return actually error. But another thing I want to mention here, if you are working in the real project, right? So once you get the post ID, you might want to validate that post ID from your database. So you call the Prisma and check if the post ID exists. And if the post ID doesn't exist, then you will throw this exception. I'm just showing this demo that how you can achieve those things. So if the post ID is not there, then we will throw not found exception. Otherwise, we can just append the post ID here in the URL. So like this. So this will give the post detail. So we can leave the name and all, it's fine. So this is the now. If I go to this page and refresh this, you can see we are getting the specific post detail. If I change the ID to let's say 4, you will see we are getting the ID 4. And if I go to this post, we are getting the list of posts here. So we have successfully completed those two API. Let me remove this console.log. I don't want to use this. So let me close this and let's now build the pages. Okay, so let me close this API, and inside this I want to display the list of posts here, right, on the home page. So here we can actually fetch the list of pages by creating a function here. So this is a server component. So I don't want to convert this to a client component, and a server component can be a async page. So we can say async. If you read the Next.js documentation, you will find that a server component can be a async. So for that, so we can fetch the data in the server component by calling a function. So let me create that function first. So I will say async function get post list. Okay, and inside this I will not pass anything, and let me actually uh, create a constant raw response, and this is going to be fetch, and this fetch is going to call our API that we have created. So we can say slash API slash posts. So this will fetch all the posts that we have, and we can return await, and we can say raw response.json. So this will return all the posts that we fetch from and this API that we have created, this post API. Okay, and we can get those data here. We can say const posts, and then we can say await and get post list. So using this, we will get all the post list here. Let me see in the console log, fail to pass the URL slash API slash posts. Okay, so this fetch is going to be await actually. So this is actually not assuming the host URL, so we need to pass this. So we let's do one thing. Let me create a inside this util, let me create a file called api.js, and I will create a export const. This will be get full API path, and here I want to return the full path. Okay, so we can return here process dot env, and our host name is going to be next public API URL, this one. So dot this plus we can append the path here. So we can import this constant in our page. Import this from slash utils slash API. Okay, and we can wrap this inside this function slash API slash post. So you can see this compiles now, and we have the list of pages here. If I say page count, and here if I say post dot length, and if I go to our home page again, and you can see we are already seeing that we have 100 posts. So this is how we can fetch the data in the server component. Now we are now let's display this. So to display this, I have prepared the actually styling. I don't want to waste the time for coding this, so I will just post that. Okay, so let me actually paste it here, and let me import the component. So here I am importing the next link and also importing the column and row from the React Bootstrap. So this is very simple styling. You can see here I have the row, and inside this I have the simple class here, and then I'm mapping the each post, and I'm just displaying the post ID, in putting the post ID as a link, and here I'm displaying the post title. So post title, I'm just converting the first character of each word as a capital letter using this regex, and here I need to display the post body. So to display the post body, what we can do, we can say here post dot body. Okay, so we are displaying the post body here. So for each post, this will be displayed, and since we are saying there will be two columns in a row, so we should see two columns actually on the page, like this way. Okay, one thing to explain here, if you are working in the actual blog, right, so you might want to show here limited number of words, and once someone clicks on this link, right, they will go to the detail page and they will see the complete blog post. But for now this is fine. So let's we have successfully created. If I click on this one, currently you will see this is saying 404. So we need to create a page to catch this URL segment, and using this we can call the this API. Now let's create the post detail page. Okay, so for that, as I said, uh, I I want the URL to be slash posts and slash post ID. So we need to create a folder inside this app, posts, and inside this we need to cache that post ID, right? So for that also we can just put the square brackets, and we can say post ID. So this works in the same way as it works in the routes. So post ID, and inside this we can create the page.js. So when you are inside the route handler, you create the route.js, and when you are building the page, you create the page.js. Okay, here we can create the component export default function, and we can say post detail page, and inside this we can return the post. So this is our post detail page. Now we need to cache the URL segment, right? This one here. So for that, again, similar to the route handler, we will get the params. And if I console.log this params here, you will see that we are getting the post ID. Okay, so we can get the post ID from this. So here we can say const post ID, and we can say params dot post ID. So again, this name, whatever name you put here in the square brackets, that has to be used here, and we can say null. Again, if you want to put a condition here, if not post ID, then you might want to return not found. And what else? So now we need to call the post detail page, right? So for that also, I will be using this. I will make this async function because this is a server component. So let's make this async. So we need to fetch the data. So let's create a function async. We can say fetch post detail, and here we need the post ID. Okay, this is going to be async function, and here again we can call the API const raw response. We can say await fetch, and here again we can call the method get API get full API path, and here we can pass slash API slash posts slash, and we can concatenate the post ID that we are getting, right? And we can just return await raw response dot json. So this will give the post detail. This will call the post API here, this one post ID API, and this will give the detail of the individual post. So we can fetch the post here by saying await and fetch post detail, and we can pass the post ID here. If I console log this, you will see we are getting the post detail user ID, title, and the body of the post. So for the styling, again I have styled this separately. So let me just copy and paste that here. So again, this is nothing very simple code. You can see I have h1 tag here, and then I have again made the title every word of the title's first character to in capital letter, and here I'm displaying the post body. So if I go to this post page, you can see we have this title, and this is the body. This is not styled in to look very good, but at least this is working for our requirement. So if I go to the home page, okay, it's not working. So let's go to the Navbar and fix this. So Navbar. So I want to, whenever I click on the Navbar, right, I want to be redirected on the uh, home page. So I can put a slash here. So if I click on this, you can see I'm redirected to the home page, but this is reloading here. So if I click on this, it's reloading. So let's do one thing. Let's use the next link. So I will remove the href, and let's wrap this inside a link component, and here I can put the href. Okay, I'm just going to ignore this underscore, but if I go to this page and I click on this, this is not reloading, so this is fine. So you can click on any post now, and you can go to that post, and you can come back by clicking on the home page. You can see this is working. So if I click on any post, I get redirected to the post detail page. But I said earlier that I want only authenticated user to access the post detail. I don't want to uh, ex- open this page if the user is not logged in, right? but as you can see here, currently I'm not logged in, so but I can access this. So we need to restrict this. So for that, let me go to this our post detail page. Okay, and we need to fetch the session here. Okay, so that we can know if the user is logged in or not. So to get the session on the server side, uh, there is a method that Next-Auth provides, that is called get server session. So we can say const session, and here we can use get server session. And this server session actually requires one argument, and that is our handler that we have created. So if I go to our API /auth /route.js, right? So here we have created the handler, and we need to pass this handler so that server knows that if I need to fetch the session, so from where I need to fetch the session. Let me remove this actually credential object, it's not required. So we can export this. Now we can import this handler in our page here. So let me put this handler. Okay, so using this handler we can get the session, and this is a async method, so we need to put the await here. So if I console.log the session here, and let me just separate this, and if I actually go to this page, you can see null here. That means we don't have any session. Why? Because user is not logged in. So let me log in first, and let me show you what session value we will have once we log in. So now I am logged in, right? And you saw here we had the null value. So if I go to the page detail again, so now you can see the user object here inside the session. So that means if the user is logged in, then you will have the user object here. Okay. So what I can do, I can check if the session is there, and if the session is there, then if the user object is there, and if it's not there, then I can just redirect to login page, right? So let me check that here actually before the post and all. So I can check here if not session, if the session is not there, or not session dot user. If the session is there due to some reason, but this shouldn't happen in ideal case, and user is not there, user is null, in that case also we want the user to log in again. So here we can just use the redirect method, and we can say /auth/login. So right now if I refresh the page, since I'm logged in, I'm there on the page detail, right? But if I log out, and if I go to the home page, I click on any page detail, you will see I'm redirected to the login page instead of page detail. Now we have protected our post detail page, but if I go to this API, and if I try to access this post detail in the browser, right, I can access this even if I'm not logged in. You can see I'm not logged in, but I can access the API. So this behavior we don't want, because even if the user is not logged in, they can access this API, and they can call this API using Postman or any other service, and they will be able to fetch the data. So we need to protect our API routes as well. So how can we protect this? So for that, what we can do, we can create a function and protect this. So we need to check if the session exists or not, right? So let me here in the API, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a function export const, and I will say is authenticated. Okay, and this is going to be a async, and here again we can get the same session here. So this will be called from the server side, because our API will be executed on the server, right? So we can call this, we can say const session. So this is one way of doing. I will show you another way also. So we can say session await, and we can say get server session, and where we can use the handler. So in this we will get the session, and we can just return this, return session dot user or false. So if the session has the user, then it will return that object, otherwise it will return the false. And we can use this in our route handler. So if I go to our route handler here inside this API, post and this one, right? So I can put this method here, I can call this, and what I can say, const is authenticated, and we can say await is authenticated, like this. So we will call this, let me change this name, is auth, otherwise this will throw an error. So here we can check if a user is not authorized, then we can return a separate response, let's say 401 or something. Okay, so here we can say return, and in this one we can say message not authorized, and second parameter we can return the status 401. So if I save this code and if I go to our API page again if you see here I am not logged in. So if I go to the page detail API, if I refresh this, you will see a message here, not authorized. So this way we can protect our route. So if I am not logged in, I am not authorized to access this API. Let's check when I am logged in what will happen. So let me say kesri@describely.com and then the password if I log in. So I'm logged in now, and if I go to this page and if I refresh this, you can see that I can fetch the API detail. So only a logged in person can access the API using this logic. So this you need to put every on the every route handler that you use these 3 lines of code, and this way basically this will be used. I want to explain another way of doing this check, and that is more recommended way in my opinion. So let's remove this code, and we can say const, and here we can get the JWT token that is created by the Next-Auth. Okay, so we can import the get token method from the Next-Auth/JWT, and here we just need to pass the request that we are getting. If I console log this, this will be async again. So regarding this function, this get token is actually can be used only on the server side, so you cannot use this on the client component. Okay, so if I go and if I refresh the page here, you can see that I can fetch the details here, and again when I refreshed you can see all the token detail that I have added here, right? So everything, let's say if you need user ID and something else, so whatever you have stored in the token, right? So you can see inside the user object I can get the user ID also, as a sub part of the token I can get the user ID here. So this is a good thing, because let's say if someone has requested and you need the user detail of the requesting user, right? So you can get this from the token. So this is recommended way of protecting the route. So here you can say if, let's say, not token, then you can return an unauthorized response. So if I try to access this, if I have the token, that means if I'm logged in I can access that, and if I'm not logged in I cannot access that. So if I refresh this page, if let me just log out first. So if I log out and if I try to access this, you can say I'm not authorized, and if I log in and if I refresh this page, you can see that I'm authorized to access. So using this get token, you can verify, or you can say you can restrict the user access. One more thing we forgot to add, so I want to explain that here. So if I refresh this uh, page, right, you can see here we can get the token. We are getting the token, that's why we don't see the not authorized response. But if I put a console log here, and if I put the token, if I refresh this page again, you will see that we are getting the token, right? So that's fine. But if I go to our next JS page, if I refresh this post one, you will see that we are not getting any content. And if I go inside the console log, you will see that we are getting null and it says not authorized. This not authorized will come even if we use the get server session. So let me just uh, comment this out, and let me use the server session. So we can say const is auth, and we can use the is authenticated method that we used previously, right? And this token is not there, so we can change this to is auth. So if I go to this page, let me just go to this page here. If I refresh this, you can see that we are getting the user detail here. And okay, let me just comment this. Sorry, put a console log here. Console.log is auth. This is again going to be a async function because we have made a async. So let me remove this console here, and let's go to our API. So let me put await here. Okay, and now again you can see it says not authorized. But if I access this from the API directly in the browser, I can get the detail. But if I go to this page and try to access the first page here, first post here, it's not showing anything. It says not authorized. So why this is happening? This is done for some security reasons. So let's say if we go to our fetch page, right? What we are doing here, we are fetching the post, and for fetching the post detail, we are using the fetch method. So by default, whenever you make a fetch request, right, from the server side, this Next.js doesn't know that you are going to call the API that is built inside the Next.js, or you are going to call an external API. So in that case, what it does, it deattaches the header. Okay, so we don't have any header information sent with this request, so that's why we don't see, uh, we don't get authorized whenever we use the fetch method. So that's why we don't see any post here, and we see the not authorized error here. So to make this work, what we can do, we can just import the header. So we can say import headers, and this we can get from next slash headers, and we can pass the headers here. So we can say headers, and this is going to be this headers. So if I use this header, right, this header method, then I will actually get the Next.js headers using this, and this will be passed with this fetch method, so that we can get authorized. So let me go here and refresh the page again. Okay, some error here because I have mistyped it. So this is headers, headers, not figures. So now you can see that I'm authorized, and if I go to this page, you can see the content here, and this also works. So this works. This is required. Whatever validation you are using in your API handler. So it could be either this token or server session. Both will require these headers to be sent whenever you are making the fetch call. So let me just comment this, and let me put a token here, and let me uncomment this. So I will leave this, and I will put this code also on the GitHub, so you can look on this. Now let me just remove the console log that we have added, and let me talk couple of things what we have done till now. Let me recap this. So what we did here, we created two pages. Okay, so one was home page. So here we have added the list of posts that we have, and this we are getting from this JSON placeholder. But again, we are not directly fetching from the JSON placeholder. We have created our own API, and from there we are returning the JSON object. Okay, so this is similar to what our API will do. So this API will, in ideal case, will go to the database and fetch the list of posts and return from here. And this is also the same thing. Okay, and this API will also fetch the data from the JSON placeholder. If I talk about this API and this API, the difference is that this API is not required a user to be authorized or authenticated, but this API will require a user to be authenticated first. Okay, so this is how we can protect the API handlers. If we talk about the pages, so how we can protect the pages? So for the pages also, if I go inside this post, right? So if you see this home page, this is, so we have not added any restriction, so anyone can access the home page. So anyone can access this page whether they are logged in or not logged in. But if they go to this page detail page, right, not page detail, post detail page, then they need to be authenticated. So for that, we have added a condition here. We are fetching the server side session and we are checking if the session is not there or the session doesn't contain the user, then redirect to login. So only a authenticated user can go to this page. So this is what we have done till now, and this is fine. But I want to talk about one thing about this route handler. So since we are in the server context, right, and we don't need to actually create a route handler whenever you are in the server component. So for fetching this post, right, I can directly, let's say, if I go to the API first, let me just open this. Let's say I'm not calling this fetch method, but I'm directly connecting to my Prisma DB. So here I can say connecting to Prisma DB and fetching the post from there. So in this case, I don't need to actually create this API. I'll tell you why. Because whenever you are working in the server component, right, that server component is again will be rendered on the server side. So you don't need to worry about, and what you can do, you can directly on this one, you can directly use the Prisma client here, and you can directly connect to the database and fetch the all the details. So in that case, you will not be required to make this fetch call. This is again a network call that is going to happen, so you will avoid that latency. And also in this one, again, you don't need to pass the header and all. You can directly connect to the DB, and you can directly fetch the post detail in ideal case. So let's say if you have a client component, so how will you do? So in that case, I will say whatever your page is, right, you make that a server component and create a separate client component, and in the server component fetch the detail and pass the detail to your client component. So in that way, you don't need to create the route handler. This is the good thing that Next.js has, like the server component and the client component, so you can avoid creating these routes. But if whatever regions, if you need to create the routes, then you can use that in this way. If you want to protect your, let's say, pages, right, I want to tell you one more thing, how can you do that before I move to the next topic. So let's close our API. You can create a middleware here, middleware.js. So this is a middleware, and actually this Next-Auth provides a middleware that we can use here. So we can say, let's say import, and we can say here with auth. Okay, so import with auth. Okay, let me remove this. So this comes from the Next-Auth middleware, and we can then create a function. We can say export a default with auth, and this with auth will be an object, and it will have callbacks, and this callbacks will have a method called authorized. This authorized will be having two things. One is request, and the other one is token. So here we will get the decrypted token. Okay, so this is a handy method, and here we can do whatever we want. You can check if the token is not there. You can just throw some exception or show some error messages. And how this will work? So we can say export const, and we can define a config. Okay, and this config will be an object, and here we will have a object called array, actually matcher. So this matcher will actually we can put all the pages that we want to be protected. Okay, so this callback is actually not required. We can just remove this, and we can just import the default here. So let me just first show you the with auth, then we can remove that. So here, let's say if I want to protect uh, post, I don't want to protect the post, but I want to protect the post slash id. So here I can say post uh, id. So for dynamic route, we put a colon, then we put the name of whatever we have created here, this post id. So this is going to protect that route, and I want to console log the token here, console.log. So let's go to this page and remove this thing, whatever we have added here in this session thing, and we can just remove this, because we will protect this page using the middleware. So I can remove these imports. So this is little cleaner now, I can say. So let me put a comment here. I can say middleware called, and then I will print the token. So here we will get the JWT token, and let me just put a slash here just to check if you open the home page, this is working. Okay, so this is fine now. If I go to our home page, I refresh this, you can see that this is protecting the home page, but this is redirecting to a wrong login page. So this is the default login page given by the Next-Auth. We want to redirect this to our login page, right? So what we can do in that case, let's go to our APIs slash auth to this route.js, and here we can define the pages. So we can say pages, and this will be an array. So we can say sign in, and sign in is going to be slash auth slash login. This will not be an array, this will be an object, sorry. Okay, so this is our login page, and let's leave login page only. Okay, let me copy this, and if I shape this, and if I go to the home page again, you can see this has successfully redirected to our login page. So using this, we can protect our routes. So we have successfully discussed and looked how we can authenticate the user using the Next-Auth. We have also looked how we can protect our pages and the route handlers. Next, I want to add the social auth here in the login page. So using the credential also, user can log in, and using their social authentication also they can log in. So I want to put the GitHub here, but you can use any authentication method, let's say Google, Discord, or any other. So let's check how we can do that. So let me close all other pages that we have, so that it's little clean. And I am having I'm not closing this DB because we'll need this. So for social authentication, we can go to the nextauth.js. Okay, and here we can add the provider. So this provider I'm going to add is GitHub. So I can go here, and you can see that we can import the GitHub like this. So let me close these things also, and if I go to this API auth.js, so here we have added the credential provider, right? So let me minimize this. Let me put a comma here, and I will add the GitHub. Let me import this first. This we don't need, and let me add the GitHub provider there. Okay, let me copy the entire code, actually this one. So now we have two providers, GitHub as well as the credential provider, right? So this is fine. We need this GitHub ID and GitHub secret. So let me add this in the env. So if I go to this env, and this one. I'm just going to copy, I'm just going to show you how you can get the values. So let's get this credentials. So you can go to this page, you can go to this GitHub provider, and here you will see the link. You can click on this link and then go to this OAuth apps. Here you can click on new OAuth app and you can put the app name. So I'm just going to say Next.js and full stack, not fill, it's a full stack. Homepage URL is localhost 3000. Callback URL, we can say this one. So this /API /auth /callback /GitHub. Okay. So this is actually going to catch this API /auth /callback and then GitHub. So this is going to be handled by this route.js. Okay. So I can register this application. Now you will get this client ID here and you can put the client ID. For the secret, you can click on this button, generate new secret. So if you generate new secret, you will get like this. So after this tutorial, I will delete this app so that you don't use my credentials to access the, let's say, GitHub. So this is done now. We have the client ID and the GitHub secret. Now we need to put a button here on the login page, right? If I go to this, here I want to put a button and so that I can click on that and log in through the GitHub. So I have already prepared that HTML. So let me copy this and let me paste this into the login page. So let me close this, and if I go auth login pages, so after this row I will just paste this. So this is pretty simple, row and column. This is a button type button, and on click what I'm doing, I'm just calling the sign in method that we have called here for the credential provider, right? This is the same method, and here we have passed if you see the credentials, but in this case I'm just saying GitHub and I'm just passing the callback URL /. So this is very simple button and nothing fancy. So if I go and refresh this, you will see that I have a GitHub button. This is little this is touching this one, so let me add actually margin top 2 pixel 3 pixel. So this is fine now. If I click on this, you can say this is asking me to authorize. So if I click on authorize Kesri Nandan, so I have been redirected here and I have been logged out. Logged in. So using this also I can log in, and if I click on this page, I can see the detail here. So you can see that I am logged in and this has worked perfectly fine. So we can add multiple providers here. So using this we can add multiple providers. If I go to the database, if I refresh this, you will see that it has added my actually personal email address. So let me just copy this, and I'm just going to delete this data. Okay, and I will show you one more. So let me just go here and log out, and let me just register my account using my personal email address. So Kesari Nandan, and I will put my personal email address and password. In the video I will actually cover this I will edit this email address so that you cannot see this, but you need to register a account using your email address that is registered with the GitHub, so that you can also get this. So if I register this, my account is created successfully, right? If I go to the DB, you can see my email address here. Now if I go to the login page and I click on the GitHub login with GitHub, you will see that I'm not logged in, and it says that OAuth account not linked in the browser. So why this happened? So now this login checks if the user account already exists in the database or not. So it found that my email address is already in the DB, and then it goes to this account table and it tries to find out the GitHub account ID and all, but it did not find anything there. So that's why it says this error, OAuth account not linked. So we need to link this account somehow. So that we can do here inside this route. And if we go to the next JS, Next-Auth JS, so here in the getting started configuration, and if we go to the callbacks, right, so you will see there is a callback called sign in. So I will use this sign in callback to actually create the account, or you can say link the account. So here I will use this sign in. So this will be called whenever we get a callback response, right, for sign in. So here I want to link the GitHub account with the user if it's already exists. So that we can do it here. So let me just put the code. So first I will say if account. So in this account I will get the account related information. So I can say if account dot provider, if the provider is credentials. So in that case we don't need to do anything, right? We can just return true. That means user is logged in. But if the provider is not credential, if it's anything else, then we need to link the account if it's not linked. So we can check if user object is there, right? And we can get the DB user. We can say DB user, and here we can say await and Prisma dot account, not account, Prisma dot user dot, and we can say find unique. Find unique, not first. This will have a where condition, and in the where condition we will pass the email equals to user.email. So this where will not be colon, this will be an object. So using this we can uh, get the user detail from the DB. If we have the user detail, let's say if DB user is there, if it's not there, then we'll return false. If DB user is there, then we can say that we can get the DB account. So we can say const account of the user. So there might be like when he logins the first time, right? We need to link the account, but if it's already there, then we don't need to link the account. So in that case, first we need to check if it's there or not. So we can say await Prisma dot account, and then we can say find unique. And here we can say where. In the where condition, actually we can say provider underscore provider account ID, and this is going to be provider account dot provider. So we will get the provider from the account from the callback, and also we will check using the provider account ID. So provider is GitHub and account ID is your GitHub account ID that is written from the GitHub. So we can say account dot provider account ID. So using this we will get the account detail, and here we'll say if let me say DB account actually, because there is an account coming from here also. So if not DB account, that means if we don't have the DB account, then we need to register. Otherwise we don't need to do that. So we can say await Prisma dot account dot create, and here we can pass the data that we want to use to create the account. So we can say user ID, user let me see the let's check the date. Let's check the fields that is required in the account table. So if I go to the account table, it's a user ID, and user ID is going to be DB user dot ID. Apart from that, we have the provider also, because we are checking using that. So provider, we can get the account dot provider, and the provider account ID, again this we will get account dot provider account ID. We also have a type field, so this will be account dot type. What else we have? User ID type, provider account ID, refresh token, access token. This will be another session, so I'm not going to discuss this. So if you want to refresh your social auth token also, you can use this, but I will leave this in this video tutorial. It's getting very longer. So token type also we need, so we can actually put the token type here, account dot token type. And scope, do we have? We have scope also. So scope also we can get account dot scope. So what access you have there? And let's actually add the access token and refresh token as well, so that if it's coming, then we'll save that. Otherwise, we'll leave. So account dot access token, refresh token, then account dot refresh token, access token. There will be lifetime also if we have this expire set. Okay, so we have expire set. So account dot ex expire set. So we will store this information in the DB if the account is not linked. We can remove this profile email and all. This is not required. We are not going to use this. So you, with this, if I go to the login page and click on the GitHub login. So let's first try using the credential provider. So using the credential provider, I'm logged in. Let me log out and let me go to the login page and click on the GitHub. So this says access denied. Okay, so I found the issue. So issue is that here we need to return true in the sign in. This is, here we can return the boolean. So if the login is not successful, then we need to return the false. Otherwise, we need to return the true. Okay, so here we are returning the true in case of credential provider, but in case of the login method is not credentials, then we are not returning anything. And by default, it's a null, and null is converted to false. So that's why we are not able to log in. So we need to return the true here. So now this is fine. If I go to the login page again, and if I click on this login with GitHub, you can see that I am logged in with the GitHub successfully. Here I had discussed initially that there is two method, custom login and refresh token, right? If you are creating a full stack Next.js app, then I will not suggest to use this. But I wanted to show you how you can create the APIs and all. Since this particular video is getting very long, so I will not going to do this in this video. But I will create I will create another video where I will explain these things from the scratch. So let's recap what we have done here. So we have created a login and register pages. We have created a route handler for creating the user APIs, user register API to be precise. And then we have created two more route handler, one to display the list of post and another one to actually display the post detail. And we have also learned how we can protect our route handlers. Apart from that, we have also learned how we can protect our pages using the session. And for route handler, we can use the session or the token, JWT token, but it's recommended to use the JWT token in my opinion. Apart from that, we also learned how we can add the social authentication with the credential provider. So that you can give the flexibility to your users to either use the username and password, or they can directly use their social account to log into your platform. So thank you so much for watching this long video, and if you have learned something valuable, I will request you to subscribe the channel and like and share the video, so that more people can so that video can reach to the more people and they can also benefit from this.